rural transit day-to-day operations. And specifically, we want to know if there's any needs that our office and the federal government can be a better partner in addressing. Senator Smith cares really deeply about this issue, and she's currently working on a bill to address some much needed policy changes for rural transit providers and customers. And Karen sent out a one-pager, and I believe everyone in the room has it as well, a physical copy. And this is just a brief overview of some potential areas of the bill that Senator Smith is working on. We haven't drafted any language yet, really, other than just very basic template stuff. But this is sort of the 5 areas that we're looking into exploring. For those in person, there's a comment card that you can fill out. For those online, feel free to comment, and then we can address your questions either through chat, or if you want to use the raised hand feature, we'll be sure to get to you. Our contact information is here in person, and then online, maybe towards the end of the meeting, we'll type it into the chat so that you have it as well. Today is our 4th listening session out of several that are going to be taking place throughout Greater Minnesota on rural transit during the development and lead up to the bill that I mentioned earlier. So we'll start by going around the circle and saying who you are and what organization you're from and why you're interested in rural transit. So I'm going to start with go to my left and start with Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Piper. I'm currently with Kanabec County Timber Trails as the transit director. We provide public transit in southern Kanabec County. We also have a few volunteer drivers still working with us, and we're working on another transportation program to be looked at. We had some CMCOA money for some transportation for what we call Beyond Timber Trails. It was a great name, it was good service, but we didn't receive enough funding to keep it going for another year. So, and am I supposed to say why I'm here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a short timer. I'm going to be out of here in a few months. When I started as a director in 2003, I never ever dreamed that we would be rehashing the same problems 25 years later. Yet here we are. We don't have enough funding to do transit. Public transit, rural public transit is not the answer to everything. It can't be. You can't run a bus where there's less than 2 people per square mile. It's just not cost effective, and it's not fair to the systems who have more people to try and serve to pull that kind of funding away from them. So we've got to find something else. And what happened with volunteer drivers in the last 7 years has been horrific, to say the least. So we need, when you have 2 people per square mile in these rural county areas, we can't run a bus up there. But if we had a whole bunch of people that were willing to volunteer, and I think they're out there, I think they're still out there. But if we could get the kind of coordination that says, yeah, I'll take my neighbor into town when I go grocery shopping. And then we don't spend, because it's hugely expensive. We're not naive about the kind of money it takes to provide rural public transit, rural transportation, period. But if we can find ways to do it like we used to do it. Back in the heyday, I had back in the heyday, Timber Trails had 42 volunteer drivers to serve Mille Lacs and Kanabec County. I could get anybody in or out of the county with whatever they had, because I knew which drivers would just go do it for free because somebody needed it. And I knew who would do it for a $20 bill or a gas card. And I knew who would never do anything except if they could get fully reimbursed for it. And, so one of the big things is that charitable donation 22-cent thing has got to get fixed. That just, and it's such a big thing to fix. I get that, but it doesn't cost anybody. It doesn't cost the government. They don't have to have FTA funds to change that little bitty line item on a tax return. that seems like the smallest thing that we can go. And there's other things, public transit, all these things are valid. But I'm just coming at it from a perspective of I'm just about done. And it didn't get done what I thought we would get done. In fact, we've lost guard when it comes to volunteer driver transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So mine, of course, won't be as eloquent as. My name is Brandon Narmy. I'm the director for Arrowhead Transit. The hat that I'm wearing here today is as a board member for the Minnesota Public Transit Association. So there will be a chance for me to get on my soapbox once the listening sessions come further up towards our areas. But for now, for today, I'm here to observe, to hear what all the input is as well, to be able to bring that back to our association for advocacy and for conversations, and to try and drum up support for all of the pieces that our rural areas need to continue to provide this vital service and to try to support what is a laughably failing at this point volunteer driver support network.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Drury with MnDOT. I'm a transit project manager based out of Duluth. So I work with the Northeast, which Arrowhead Transit, and then some systems in the central part of the state. And I know I've met Orion on a Zoom call when you were with the IMI grant a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's been a while. So, and I'm really just here to listen. I know I've heard the concerns many times. I'm all aware of them, but just to hear the discussion.
Kathy Gursky, and I am the Director of Canadian County Community Health, which Timber Trails public transit transportation is under the umbrella of community health, which everybody says that's weird, but it's really not. Because it's, you know, that's one way to keep people healthy, is make sure they're getting where they need to go. And when Helen departs, I will be taking on parts of that job, and hope I can do it with similar passion and parts that she has.
She's awesome. She is great.
But obviously, from the county board perspective, to which I have to answer to, you know, they have a hard time not serving the whole county. And, you know, why are we only serving a small portion? We have a much larger area that needs to be served. So again, working with Helen and the operations supervisor, looking at options that we can maybe do that won't cost the county taxpayer, because property taxes are really high here already. And we've been fortunate that public transit has not cost any tax dollars in the time we've operated it. We've been able to make it up in their box and what have you. So just making sure we continue to run that efficiently, but would love to expand our service area, which I know, Tina, don't look at me like that. But I'm gonna keep fighting for and figuring out ways to serve that population better. And the volunteer stuff has already been said. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there.
I want to expand on why we've never had to have county property tax dollars. It's because Timber Trails has been doing NEMT since our inception. We provide a lot of contract service, and that's why we can make our local match out of the fare box. It's not that $3 fare that somebody rides the bus. It's because we provide rights, we provide NEMT.
Well, if you can do anything, any paperwork and stuff with the insurance companies. Because
That's
everybody
the
wants
other
something different, and the language isn't the same, and the billing isn't the same, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, we'll make sure to touch back on that. Yeah, that's great to talk about. Let's go to the back row first.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Thompson with the Central Regional Development Commission at RTCs. Thanks for coming.
I'm Dominic, I'm the communications manager with Arrowhead Transit.
Well, I think everybody knows who I am. Karen Onen, East Central Regional Development Commission and East Central Regional Transportation Coordinating Council. I'm really, really happy that everybody's here, that we're all. There's a. Oops, hold on a minute. Oh, Sherry's coming in. There's a whole host of reasons why we need to be talking about all of this. And, it's really nice to be able to share voices with you. Um, you know, this whole, I really believe that there's something out there that's going to get us what we need for rural transportation, and we haven't found it yet. And, I'm thinking Jetsons, but I know that sounds really strange, but we have to get everybody to a specific location where they can get the public transit. And it's gotta be an inexpensive way to get them to these places where they can pick up public transit. And I don't know, my great grandfather invented the 10 light generator. I'm gonna try to invent some kind of a little smart car that runs out like a one of those robot vacuums and then comes right back, picks up people, brings them back and plugs itself back in. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, and it's probably run by a little guy sitting here on a screen, so if it gets stuck in the snow, they can send out another. So, I got ideas, but yeah, thank you. Really.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for all.
Sure.
I'm Jessica Peterson with Lighthouse Child and Family Services. We're out of Malacca. But we also have, we have sites, outpatient mental health services from 0 to, aged throughout kind of the 5-county area. Specifically, I'm program coordinator for our day treatment center in Princeton. We also have a day treatment center in St. Cloud area as well. We really got into trying to figure out transportation just out of also livelihood to get our community members to our services. And so we've really been passionate in surviving as a mental health agency as well. And of course that our field struggles with the low insurance reimbursement rates and obviously the insurance world of all those complications that come with it. And so we've stepped into transportation, figuring that out as well. We have one person at Lighthouse who is a transportation coordinator that helps schedule med rides and school transportation for all of our kiddos that use that come for day treatment. But we're also expanding her this year to help just any of our outpatient or school late people get to their service. So that's how we've stepped in this arena and are passionate about trying to figure things out. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll go over to our Zoom participants. We'll start with Barbara, and then if you want to pick someone to go after you, just so that we don't have everyone, trying to unmute at the same time, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Willard. I am the transit director for TRICAP, and we serve 5 counties, Morrison, Mille Lacs, Sherburne, Benton, and Stearns counties. I echo what Helen said. Rural transportation has some very unique challenges, and I'm here today to discuss some of those challenges. I am somebody who believes that there is a solution for any challenge if we work at it long enough and persevere. And I'm with you, Karen. I think that we can come up with some unique ways to meet those challenges. So that's why I'm here today. And I've got someone here from TRICAP, so I'll throw it over to Colleen Orn.
Hello, hi, I'm Colleen Orn. I'm here to accompany Barbara and to learn more. I am new to transportation in general and also new to TRICAP. I've been serving as the executive director here for about 8 months now. And so like Barbara, I like to be in the problem-solving lane, and so I'm hoping to learn more and figure out how we fit into that picture.
You wanna pick somebody, Colleen?
Sure, I will choose Thomas.
Hi everyone, I'm Thomas Zimmerman. I am working with Region 5 Development Commission as the mobility manager. So I do the RTCC in that area, which is Cass, Crow Wing, Todd, Morrison, and Wadena counties. So just next door, a little bit west. Um, let's go with Ashley, I think.
Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Craiglow. I'm with the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. I focus on transportation and housing for older adults in our area. And so, yeah, I came to listen just because our areas are obviously seeing the same struggles and challenges. And so just learning and hearing what we can come up with for solutions. Thanks for having me today. And I'll pass it to Beverly.
Hi, I'm Bradley Tolliver. I work for the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission and coordinate the Arrowhead Regional Transportation Coordinating Council for Northeast Minnesota area. And so I'm here to listen, but then also sort of piggybacking what I think Helen had said, seeing the same issues still be an issue even through historic lesson learning that probably should have happened along the way. And with that, making sure in a sense, traditional transit remains valuable and seen valuable. Because every time I hear idea of more innovative things or money towards innovation, I worry that it's somehow transit got forgotten in that, and I don't know why. And I haven't done the research why. And then also even looking into how transit is valued to climate change and its impact on reducing vehicle miles traveled, and just making sure those pieces stay in the minds when legislation is being passed. And then I think Sherry's the last one online.
Good afternoon. This is Sherry Munyon. I'm with the Minnesota Public Transit Association. Sorry I couldn't join you today, and I'm just listening in between our Minnesota legislative committees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. We know you're busy at the Capitol right now, so totally get it. And thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Really appreciate it. We have a lot of people in the room and online who care about transit and getting people from point A to point B for their health, for their livelihood, for their prosperity. So really appreciate it. To get this conversation started, I'm gonna maybe turn it to Helen and Kathy. If you want to give an overview of timber trails specifically and your operations, and maybe what transportation options are in the community right now.
Right through Caneva County, you've got Timber Trails Public Transit, which is a total of 6 public transit vehicles. They're class 400s. They run, there is a specific service area that we have. It's a service design. It's based on historical usage of transportation. It can be changed, but it is a process to change. And it requires a lot of documentation about why that change would be necessary. So it was designed to meet my memory anyway of it is it was designed around what was going to be the productivity goals to keep FTA funding coming into it. So Timber Trails has a percentage like every other transit system in the state of federal dollars that come in, and then the state general fund dollars. And then, of course, the local match. Since COVID, our local match has been very low, which is wonderful. But again, Timber Trails provides a lot of NEMT, and so that we could have withstood some stuff that but that 5% local match in a county with property tax issues like what we have, that 5% local match would maintain our ability to meet the local match right out of the fare box. Also through timber trails, we have, volunteer drivers. We used to have a whole lot more. We're down to 3. That's gonna be down to 2 in a few weeks. So there is very limited things that we can do with that. The volunteer drivers primarily take transportation for Kennebec County residents that need to go out of the area or are in an area that is out of the service design. So our volunteer drivers serve the whole county from top to bottom, if they're a Kennebec County resident. It is primarily a service of medical assistance though. It is, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times through the years, we've had people call us and say, I'm literally $1 over being able to get medical assistance, or $5 or $20. I'm not kidding you, that happens, $1. And they don't have transportation for their medical anymore, or they don't have medical period. So we have the volunteer drivers, we call it access transportation. We have, those volunteer drivers not only do the medical assistance rides, but they do the rides that are medical assistance through managed care. So, we work, this year we'll be working with Blues, Medica, and UCare to provide transportation, but our resources are very, very limited. Under that program, when we have the capacity, we will sometimes send a paid staff member to provide some medical rides in a county-owned van. And that's something that we're delving into to see how that might develop. We had hoped to get more time with Beyond Timber Trails to document this stuff, but we didn't. So, we're gonna study it. We know the need is out there.
Well, we hear the need is out there.
Right.
We've held meetings in townships and nobody shows up. But yet, when they can't get a ride, they do let their county commissioners know. So it's been really difficult to pinpoint, but. You know, the 6 buses we have, there's 3 that operate really at any given time, so it's a small system. Demand response, so the routes are built around the needs of the people every given day. Other resources that are available in Kennebec County are pretty limited. There's a couple, like Attaboy's Taxi that comes out of Sandstone that will serve parts. Shootran, which is medical transport, and very expensive medical transport, will serve parts of it. There's very, you know, we don't have Uber and Lyft. We don't have other cab companies. Volunteerism has gone down across the country. We're not special. It's everywhere. So I think even churches are struggling to find, you know, somebody to drive that person. We used to be a really big system with the Faith Network driving their own parishioners here and there to cancer treatments or whatever, and that's gone down too. So
our volunteer drivers don't need volunteer drivers.
Yes, yeah.
You know, it's interesting here too, with Lakes and Pines, because a cap agency like that would often be thought of as having some kind of provisional transportation, but they never have.
No.
And, I talked to Bob about it, now I've talked to Denise about it. It's just not part of their MO, you know.
Right.
And then same with the 7 County Senior Federation, to possibly ask any of those seniors if they might want to volunteer drive, because many of them volunteer, but that's never gone anywhere either, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I think we have an interesting area here where I think in Mille Lacs County, I think there's more options. Aren't there? Loving Hands, you've got.
It's the tale of the 2 halves of the county,
Yeah,
north and south,
right.
because in the south, I'd say yes. But the north end, is drastically different, so.
Can you talk a little bit more about that Beyond Timber Trails program?
It was funded with Older American Act dollars through Central Minnesota Council on Aging, and there was funding reduction as well as a development refiguration of the formula. So central Minnesota and a lot of the rurals got whacked pretty good. And they're having to cut food service, they're having to cut lots of. Yeah, it's like frozen meals here in Canadian County aren't happening anymore, which was when you don't have transportation, you can come pick up. Frozen meals for a week or 2 weeks. One trip in, and now that's not even gonna be an option. So, that's. I think when I did the grant, they were able to offer $700 or something for the year. Like, Ruben, that's not gonna, doesn't even pay the peer place, which is the computer program you have to enter people into, costs $1,500. So. It wasn't feasible, so we just opted out of that and are looking at other options.
You could have a separate from today, but a conversation about Older Americans Act, because that's something we've also been doing listening sessions around the state.
Yeah, and we've done a, in public health, a program that took about a $15,000 cut. We have to cut way back on it, but yeah, that's people are getting older, they're not getting younger, and it's the services keep them in their home. So pretty important too.
When we think about both drivers and volunteer drivers, what are some issues around retention that you're dealing with? Is it mostly people just aging out, or are there other opportunities?
Well, the tax implications, then they're on, Social Security and they talk to their tax person having to claim, because we do reimburse at the IRS rate, so they have to count it as income. That's one issue. Driver wise, just the recruitment, and I think even with bus drivers, they are aging out, and it's hard work and it's not really high paid. They do important jobs and safety and everything else, and they don't make a ton of money. So when we get new drivers, they're typically retired and they're doing this on the side, bus driving or, part-time gig. Or they just have passion for it. They're mission driven. And I hate to say it, but it feels like there aren't that many people that are anymore. I think yes, and answer to your question.
The CDL driver is a very difficult portion driver that a CDL driver really has to live his life around, or her life around their career. In a time where smoking pot or using cannabis is legal for a lot of people, it's not legal for somebody who's a CDL driver. You make one bad choice with liquor use, and you're not a CDL driver anymore. And in a field where they can make a lot of money doing some things, I mean, we have a good starting wage. Our employees are Canadian County employees. We have a good benefit package. We're lucky that way. But other agencies are community action councils, and they can't offer the types of benefits that a county can. We have a PTO policy that is wonderful. We have benefits that that are part of your job, and it's part of your package, your payroll package. It's been a good run, and it is a good run for our employees, but we only need so many employees to drive 6 buses. And our retention for our bus drivers, the only time we change them out is when somebody retires.
Well, is there any large barrier to getting the CDL? I know there's a lot of classes.
Well, Arrowhead's big enough where they can run their own training and stuff. You don't just go out and get a CDL anymore. You have to have a bunch of training. That's not an option for an agency like ours. For Arrowhead, though, you have some different stuff.
We do, yeah, we have an internal third-party tester, and we do, as part of our onboarding, we train them for their CDLs. In that training, we do what's called the ELDT, the entry level driver training, which is a relatively new requirement over the last few years. And you have to outline what your training program is and certify it with the government and certify who your trainers are, and they have to meet certain qualifications, and then the third party training is another involved. But yeah, she would have to have somebody who did that. Well, I mean, you don't think about this.
No.
If you were, if you brought a large amount of drivers, it's almost a position of office.
I think if we can get just slightly smaller vehicles that would not require the CDL would be one possibility, but agreed, we kind of drive the smallest that.
Well, we can, MinDOT is gonna be coming out with a possibility to procure vans. And I can see that Timber Trails would benefit from a hybrid fleet. However, there are still a few times, we provide a lot of human service transportation to industries. And there are times where we do need the larger buses, but not every hour of every day. So I think that hybrid solution is something that is gonna be very positive for Timber Trails.
You're talking about phase in industries.
Phase.
Yeah, do you know what that is?
No.
It's a organization for those who are developmentally challenged. Phase is located, they've got, all over the region.
Cambridge.
And they need rides to get to their jobs.
It's like a sheltered workshop.
Okay.
So folks with disabilities come on in, they're considered employees. Believe it or not, that their trips are, they're not categorized our employment when it comes to what we categorize them, but they come in and they do their job. Most often they're living in group homes, so I would say, there's a large percentage that live in group homes and are doing the best of their capability to have it.
I'm just going in, phase.
PHASE.
And it's just.
Yep, and then / industries.
Okay.
And I know Arrowhead does some driving for the,
Phase is an acronym,
Okay.
rehabilitation. Something.
I got that one.
We can do it, we can do it.
employment.
Awesome, thank you.
We talked briefly about, the vans. What is the age of your fleet? Are any of them sort of on the edge of? All right.
I think we have one
Yeah.
So the vehicle crisis hit Timber Trails very, very badly. At the time that, when COVID started, we had just kind of split from Lawrence County, and so we had 4 new buses. And then everything went bad. And so we just got a new bus last March. Otherwise, every vehicle in our fleet is considered beyond useful life. And we're still making it work. That's not a funding issue as much as it is an industry vehicle availability issue.
Not too much into it, but it's actually fine. So there's a supply issue, which greatly increases the price of the buses, which.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
That, we used to buy a class 400 bus for, yeah, and now they're 143 or 135.
What were those numbers again? What it used to be?
So vehicles are rated on their size. You have class 300, class 400, and class 500. Timber Trails, a lot of rail transit systems run class 400 buses. It's a medium-sized bus, capacity of anywhere from 16 to 21. Your class 500s go up higher than that. And so,
Pre-COVID, we were buying them for 85,000.
and then
Now they're,
the last one was 43, 35. And the projections are for even greater. And that's a class 400, that's not even the big buses.
Yeah.
What is the percentage that a vehicle needs to be American made?
Oh, yeah, the American made class.
By America.
By America, what is that percentage? And is there only one car maker that has that?
As of right now, these, my understanding is
It's
there's
Ford.
Ford chassis.
Ford. And it's like, what is the percentage though, do you remember? Of it, of how much it has to be American cars?
There were some waivers given during the COVID crisis.
Which expired.
Right. And the other thing that is worth mentioning, when COVID struck, this is how I understand from what I've heard from dealers, is Ford switched out of making these kinds of buses, and they moved more towards the big pickups and the RVs, because that's where that's what people want. So then when we eased back in and we needed these buses, they did a lot of hiring and, quality went down with what they did. I think Tina could probably speak better to this, but I mean, we're seeing people not even accepting, agencies not even accepting new buses because they are so poorly made. So poorly put together.
We're dealing with a lot of. There's been recalls, safety recalls on some of the buses. Girl had stuff with some of that. A lot of paint, just paint bubbling up and chipping off on brand new buses. Just issues like that. Forest River has said they're addressing the issue. They did hire someone to oversee, basically have the compliance and just, making sure that the buses are things like running wires and hoses through sharp edge that are just kind of wear and break, and it's.
Well, it's almost like a in a brand new bus that has a shock engine.
Yeah, so now it's gonna be 70% more expensive, but they're not as
Less quality.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that this bill is looking at, is, ways to incentivize manufacturers to sell vehicles to rural transit providers. And we talked a little bit earlier about the local match. This bill is also looking at, moving, operating expenses from that 50-50 local match to, the feds would cover 80%. Yeah,
That doesn't.
okay,
We're sub-recipients. So the 5311 money that comes in for that 80-20 match would be just the match that the state has to make. So there would be no direct impact to the rural transit agencies now.
okay.
The 50-50 affects the small urban system, 5307s, and the trucks.
Then, you talked earlier about some of the medical or paperwork.
Regulatory.
Yes, yeah. Could you speak more about that?
Well, I think if we're, like, take off the hat where I could get on a really big soapbox with insurance companies, but we won't go there. It's just difficult. They don't speak the same language, so you're trying to get credentialed to provide services, but they don't call them the same thing. Is it common carrier? Is it volunteer? Is it assisted? Is it STS? Is it, they've got just a whole mess of things and then you go to the next insurance company and they become a little different, and you have to provide your firstborn for this one, but not this one.
Yeah.
And it's, not giving them up.
She's a grandma, she would never give up.
But aside from that, just regulatory for really small, procurement. You gotta procure your newspaper stuff. Well, we have one and it's a weekly and it's, you gotta go through this whole big process to do it. It's square peg rumble. It just is, procurement's a big one, for small.
For our 6 buses, I have to do all the same stuff that Brandon has to do for what?
140 buses.
$125.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which is the exact same stuff that New York Metro has to do for their 25,000 buses.
I know the state is helping a little bit on trying to get a procurement office set up and trying to lessen some of that. Thank you for that, but, yeah, some of that regulatory stuff is.
There is no acknowledgement that. So I'll give you an example. In the late teens, 20 teens, we were part of an audit where FTA came out and looked at what we did. And they weren't looking at what we did. They were looking more so, this was Sarah in town.
Oh, Sarah.
Yeah, so they were looking to see how MnDOT helped the systems get through the FTA stuff. This is March, okay? March in Minnesota. And they wanted to see a bus. So we had a bus come in off the route, midday off the route, 1 o'clock in the afternoon in March in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And we got tagged for having a dirty bus.
We're 70% of the road to travel.
So there is no scale of accommodation between, and I get people like, we all get MTC, they maybe need to have a different set of rules than what we do out here. But I will tell you, my dispatchers know who's on the phone simply by hearing their voice. There is if there would be some way to have some reasonable scale.
Absolutely. That's another thing that we're really interested in taking a look at. When you get, tagged for having a dirty bus or, too small.
It wasn't a bad, they didn't write us out, your house was hurt, but they were like, well, now what, he said to me, now your bus is really dirty, what are you gonna do about that? And I'm like, well, we'll wash it as soon as we.
Car wash. Doing it after every ride.
Yeah.
I think, certainly want to make sure that the passengers are safe. and the
Oh,
drivers are
absolutely.
safe.
We would never
Drug and
compromise that.
alcohol and all the safety stuff, that needs to be there. But some of this procurement stuff doesn't make sense. Yeah, the amount of paperwork for everything is just.
But yeah, we have some major policy areas, we have ADA, we have civil rights, Title VI, Title VII, we've got procurement, we've got drug and alcohol. Your agency probably has maybe one person in charge of each one of those or at least one person in charge of pieces of it. Maybe, I don't know. Timber Trails, guess who's in charge of all of it? In addition to the other duties that she has.
When you have to go out and fix a bus, find a mechanic, is it difficult to find mechanics who will, work on the buses due to the paperwork as well?
Okay,
We've
so
been pretty dang lucky.
Okay.
we have some of our, I keep doing that, we have some of our buses done at the county garage. We try to have most of our, anything that we can do at the county garage, we have done by the county garage, because that's just a good working relationship. And it means that I don't have to do much more than a agency agreement for procurement. However, they can't do everything, so we need to go out. In Kanabec County, there's one provider who can accommodate our buses that has a facility that are willing to put in to do it. And a lot of times we're going to somebody outside the county. So we're talking about, are we going way west to St. Cloud or are we gonna go south somewhere? Half the time I'd just be happy if we could find somebody to do them, okay? But the other part of it is, and with Timber Trails, we're small, we've got 6 units. Procurement coming out, there are people down there that want to use the procurement process for us to get greater benefits, like better deals on labor and priority treatment. For 6 buses, those guys read those letters and go, we don't need your business that bad. So procurement, I can see where we need to be wise with how we spend the government resources that we receive. That's not the question. The question is economy of scale. 120 buses can negotiate something like that. 6 buses, I'm looking for anybody who will just do it and do it as soon as they can get it.
Yeah, I also wanted to say if anybody online has any contributions, whether it's regulatory stuff from TRICAP, another provider, or ARDC, or anyone else has kind of comments, especially from the federal regulatory standpoint, feel free to do the raise hand and chime in there.
I'd love to get any input from Barbara or Ashley, any of you online.
Well, I pretty much echo what Helen was saying. You know, we're kind of from a scale standpoint, very similar, although we do have the 5 counties versus the 1 county. But for us, you know, just what we were just talking about the buses. I mean, that's kind of for us the same thing. We have to play musical buses almost on a daily basis because we've got almost 10 buses out of our fleet of 29 that are already past their age out per se, because the funding isn't there. They can't fund all of the buses that have aged out. So, you know, we've got many buses with, you know, 250,000 miles on them that are in the shop often. And so that's exactly what we have to do, play musical buses. Well, let's get a bus up to Little Falls, and then we need somebody to bring, you know, the other bus back because the, you know, steps need to be redone, or you know, it's just a constant, there's so many moving pieces to the bus thing, and there is so much time and energy and resources that are going towards just managing that, you know, getting buses where they need to be for repairs and getting other buses up there to take the place. And it's gotten incredibly complicated.
By the way, those are CDL drivers, even if they're not driving passengers, those are CDL drivers needed just to move buses around for repairs.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And as an agency, you know, for us, you know, the lack of, and when I say lack of funding, I mean, I'll give you an example. For 2025, we are projecting to be, you know, almost $600,000 over what we're funded for, to be able to operate. And so, the dollars that we have in our coffers for, you know, discretionary type, you know, emergencies and things like that, are going to be depleted very, very fast. And so for us, driver wages is one of those things. We really have trouble competing in what we're able to pay our drivers and what we should be paying our drivers to be competitive and to keep and retain our drivers. And so there again, we roll through drivers from a retention standpoint quite often. You know, most of them are retired. Those are the ones that generally will stay for a while. But to get the younger drivers who want to do it as a career, those are drivers that are going to go to Metrobus because Metrobus will pay them a whole lot more than we can afford to pay them. And so, you know, what I found, I'm relatively new to transportation, and what I'm finding is that the amount of energy, resources, time just to kind of do that juggling to keep everything moving, everything operating, you know, with budget, with procurement, with just everything is so enormous that, you know, to look at, you know, all the challenges and say, well, here's the one piece that, you know, if we can fix this, boy, you know, we'll be able to operate within our budget and do this, that, and the other, but there's just so many pieces that need to be looked at and that we're constantly trying to, rob Peter to pay Paul in this area so that we can, keep this going, or, like with the buses, with the drivers, that it's challenging to be operating public transit, particularly rural public transit, and to be able to do it with the operating dollars that we have to do it with. And then, as as far as clients or people who need the service, that's kind of a catch-22 as well, because we are becoming a society that generally wants what they want when they want it, and public transportation is not a taxi. And so, we can't be operating like a taxi service when you're public transportation. We have to weigh everything from, what is the most efficient way of doing things, where do we have the highest concentration of people who need to use public transportation at this particular time, or, where, how many miles is that going to put on an already aging bus that is already in repair on a regular basis? How far can we take that bus? And so there's so many moving pieces that need to be thought about with rural transportation that it gets challenging. So, I'd say that alone for our organization is probably the biggest challenge, is just trying to figure it all out, keep everything operating with the resources that we have, the limited resources.
Thank you, Barbara.
Mhm.
I did see that Ann was able to jump on. Ann, would you be willing to just introduce yourself and maybe share, we've kind of gotten into the conversation, but share any kind of significant points that you might want to make, whether it's funding challenges for kind of rural transit, or regulatory or procurement challenges, anything that kind of comes to mind, along with just a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. Sorry for joining late. I had another meeting that ran over, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. That I have missed, I'm not sure what other people had mentioned, but the aging vehicles and getting those replaced, because the part of Anoka County is pretty rural, and so we struggle to have low denials. Like, obviously, I would prefer a zero denials, but having to bring vehicles in for preventative maintenance sometimes is a struggle. And so we do have demands based on certain times of day when vehicles have to be in for service. So we work closely with the Met Council. You have an accident that maybe takes a vehicle out of service, which we had for about 4 months. So we had to borrow from another fleet. So we're lucky that we have those resources when we are struggling, that, through the chain of command, we can get the permission to do that. And I agree with, I think, was it Barbara that was just, whoever was just previously speaking? The society that we live in is, now. I want it now. I want my ride now, expecting and not always understanding the policies and procedures. So for us at Anoka County, providing outreach to make sure people have realistic expectations of public transportation. And so on our end, to try and mitigate no-shows, we will, when someone's new and getting registered, we'll have them listen to a recording about just very simple, maybe it's 5 points about the 30-minute window, about no-shows, scheduling. So I can hold them accountable when they can say, I don't know. But being successful in that rural area, which we do have quite a bit of demand, is getting the people to understand what's realistic and how the service works. I don't know if that was helpful. And then just, working to be able to have partnerships, because, rural doesn't, stop at Anoka County. There's, greater Minnesota. So not everybody wants to go to their doctor or visit somebody in Anoka County and they want to go other places. So
Yeah, that's super helpful. What does a denial look like from the customer perspective? Is it just when they're calling ahead of time, the dispatch just lets them know that they're unable to accommodate them?
So we can schedule up to a week in advance. And so a lot of our denials tend to come from someone calling today that needs a ride tomorrow at 7 a.m. or 4 p.m. And so when I notice new names coming in on our routes, sometimes I reach out to them and say, you know, I saw you had a no-show, or I see that you had some denials, or you're on standby quite a bit. We have a standby process. Can I help, you know, provide some information on Transit Link to maybe help you be more successful using the service? So our denials are mostly peak hours in the morning and the afternoon. And I keep a close eye on that to see if we can maybe push windows on our routes, because I feel like, no offense to any providers that might be here, but I do feel like our providers are still feeling that COVID era where the expectations might have been different. Our productivity on our end, I think, can improve. But it's, you know, how we provided our service before COVID to how we're providing it during COVID and now, none of it's the same. And I'm trying to work with our provider, because we are a partnership here. We're a team, and try to get back to understanding, you know, what we actually can do. And if you continue to not deny people, those trips are going to go away. That demand will go away. And we happen to, at this point, have the financial, you know, we have the money, we have our budget to be able to provide these hours. And if we go over, we actually have some what's called a bank. So we're not struggling in that, because we have this set up. But for myself, getting on the same page as our provider to try and get back to providing more trips. 100% isn't necessarily an efficient use of resources if you're 100% on time. You know, trying to push windows, pick more people up, and have less denials. So I'm sorry, I totally went off on a tangent there. So they'll call into reservations, and if when they call the schedule, the reservationist will say, this is what they're supposed to say: we don't have a vehicle in the area at the time that you're requesting. And so they go on standby, and then they have to call back the day before between 1 and 3. And so our provider will work to schedule those trips before that 1 o'clock hour the day before. Then the customer calls us back and says, "Hi, this is Ann Welter. I'm checking on my ride." And at that point, the reservationist will say, "This is the time I have available for you." Or the reservation is going to say, "I'm sorry, we don't have a ride for you tomorrow. You can call back for a same day ride." That's how that happens. And sometimes the time we provide them just doesn't work, and then it's a refusal instead of a denial.
Okay.
And all of that needs to be tracked, because those denials are what we turn around and say to MnDOT, yeah, I've got 14 denials for this time at this, and that's how you build your case for service expansion.
Or a certain location where you would like to offer service that you don't currently offer service.
And something else that she mentioned and did, education. So if Kanabec County Timber Trails has a wait time, we'll wait 3 minutes or 5 minutes max. And then the bus needs to move on. And they're like, people really have a hard time understanding that, county commissioners particularly. You only waited 3 minutes? Well, guess what? We're scheduling trips. We're scheduling pickups every 7 minutes. If we wait 3 to 5, then we're behind for the next how many hours? And so public education about what public transit does is really important, and it's not something that's funded anywhere.
Yeah, and you give them like a 30-minute window, you call them ahead of time.
Yeah, when they call in, our trip to Nile is very much like what Ann said. Somebody calls in, dispatcher will look to see if they have the exact time that they're talking about. And they'll say, no, I don't have that, but I can get you here. And, so a lot of people will just take those other times, but we have times where we turn people down, where we just, it's not that we don't have room on the bus, we don't have time capacity to get it. Especially if you're in the rural areas.
I would say that our people at Lighthouse, and that is primarily what they do, is the education and outreach with the community to help them schedule the ride for them, because there's, again, speaking to kind of like the differences with the insurance company, there's a different process for each insurance company. And then there's a different, that doesn't necessarily mean that the providers, transportation providers in your area are credentialed or qualify for what the insurance does. So there is a mismatch. What we're finding in our rural area is there's a very limited number of providers at all. And then that are actually qualified. So currently for MA clients that we have are not, there's in the north end, there's 0 transportation providers that will provide any service. So they will say you are out of our service area. So for example, in Mille Lacs County, the south end, there's I'd say 2 consistent providers. Shoe-Tran and Loving Hands. Shoe-Tran will not pick up MA. Loving Hands will pick up on MA if it's under 30 miles. So there's only 2 providers for that entire county for the non-emergency medical people. Then that just got cut in half. And the north end, again, Shoe-Tran will drive for like the blues, maybe if it's under a certain amount of miles. Again, there's just a giant mismatch of who was available and then for what they'll, who and will pay. And also circling back to the rider education. We do have to work through that entire process for them because it's too hard. They won't do it. And then there's a sense of helplessness that it's just not possible. So transportation providers are saying, we're not hearing from the people or they're not showing up for their rides. And there's a huge impact in that they don't have anyone to help them in the process. And so.
You see like a chicken and egg situation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Right.
In Wax County that we are a part of a project with Karen, and with U of M, trying to just hear from people in Wax County and Canada County about why they don't use transportation for various reasons. And, those are a lot of the reasons. And so, I'm curious if some kind of like community dispatch, who's not one of the providers, because our community doesn't all use the same provider.
Yeah.
As far as like, they don't all use MA, they don't all use, which is MTM, but anyway, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's just way.
Well, and Canadian County can't even become a member of MTM, they won't accept Canadian County, so. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of nuances that don't match. There's too many crisscrosses, too many X's for that certain combination, that certain cocktail that person needs to make work. And so.
Do you think there's like demand, and that might be part of the kind of study that you're talking about trying to do, but it kind of sounded like you're almost talking about like some kind of 411, like online for community education about transit.
Yeah, or centralized dispatch that knows
Yeah.
all,
Yes.
and it's a one call,
Right.
which our dispatchers do a really good job for those that are coming into Canadian County.
Sure,
because
yeah.
We do the volunteer, we do a little other, and we have and if we can't do it, they're offering a referral to here or there, but.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be that one person that could figure all that out, cause it's mind boggling.
Right.
Right.
That or, I mean, additional marketing dollars and outreach dollars to encourage that educational piece. I would say that that's been a big push of ours internally, to increase educational efforts, within our system. With especially some of the forward projects that we're making, but, my goal with a lot of our educational things is to be able to create stuff that is shareable between all of our sister, systems. So that that's not just, something that's Arrowhead Transit specific, but something that we can utilize across the entire state. That can be just, the phone number could just be changed or something like that, so. I mean, that like video content is incredibly useful and it's something that's short, simple and sweet and you can get that message across really quickly and it's easily consumed. So that is also incredibly helpful.
And I was thinking about that kind of when Kathy, when you talked about the lack of presence at some of the public meetings that you would hold. And that seems to probably be part of like a much larger conversation about just how we interact as communities and like how often we engage with one another in person. But if you're continuing to run into that challenge, I mean, it's like we still want to have those public informational meetings, which are, mandated by law for organizations like yours, but to what extent do you start just trying to really hone in on the modern technology that people are utilizing to get the word out about it?
And then you have my 96-year-old mother who still
Right.
misses the yellow pages.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand,
Right.
why I'm always looking at my phone for things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's where all the information is now.
But on the reverse of that too, like Arrowhead Transit has seen great utilization of the 90+ pass form that we have on our website. And individuals applying for that over the age of 90 within our website. So it's catch-22, right? So it's.
Yes, well, you have to market it to me and not to my mother. But, but it's, it's still.
However, those older people in that older generation, they're coming along. They're learning how to navigate it because they have to. I mean, it's getting better.
It's something hard for me.
Yes.
So we can talk about the information on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another conversation too. Yeah, that's actually.
That's what I focus on specifically in Senator Smith's office, in addition to the region that's broadband statewide, so that's a very relevant
Getting much
conversation.
better here.
Yeah.
And then there's also the baseline difficulty, which comes with public engagement, is the public people that you want to engage with are the ones that have transportation issues. So how are they supposed to get to a public engagement meeting? Right.
Right, that's a great.
Some of these projects that we've had opportunities through the U of M and MnDOT, there's been several different like grant opportunities, which I've been able to procure, and that has helped us get into the community and have some resources. So we've been able to give $75 gift cards to people that show up for the feedback meetings, the focus groups, and hear from one specific we had in Romania, where the 7 families that showed up said, we don't have a grocery store in Romania, let alone even like any transportation. And they rely fully on word of mouth, friends that will the places, you go on to Walmart on Wednesday, okay, great, let's figure it out, maybe $20. So that's the majority of how they spend.
And that's actually much of the regulatory stuff from our perspective, but the ironic part of the whole thing is that we are a transportation service. I have 125 businesses. I cannot provide busing to my public meetings.
Yeah.
Unless it's specifically along the route that's already been predefined.
We have people, and I'm sure Melanchthon has it too, but I've personally given rights to folks who don't have electricity. I think people look at that and they think you're crazy. No, I'm here to tell you, there are people in northern Connecticut County that they have cell phones, but they don't have electricity. They don't, it's real.
Actually, I think it's growing the off-grid.
Yes.
There's more than that.
Going back a little bit to people calling into timber trails. How often do you have to redirect them to, another, transportation provider, if they're, MA eligible or,
For everybody else to redirect them to.
yeah.
Well, I mean.
Okay, so we do,
Tran,
we talk about, you can get a for-profit provider, you can call the Trans. Is Medicaid still in business? I haven't heard about them much lately at all, but there's Tran and some of those folks. There's just not a lot of options for them out there. We can't help them. That is one of the big things that we do. It is a goal of ours to not let somebody off the phone without offering something. We do referrals to Arrowhead all the time, because we get calls from people out of service. We still get a lot of calls from people in Marks County that are looking,
But a lot of the time, it's just working with that writer to say, such if you can make it on this day at this time, that would work better. Working with the local providers, you've got specialties that come in on Tuesdays and trying to, you need to tell your provider you are transit dependent and that you can only come on these days or whatever it might
within
be.
these hour periods.
Yeah.
Raleigh has been really good about working with us on that. If they know that somebody is needing the bus to come in.
That's our health system,
Okay.
the local health system.
We're a small local health system. It's not Fairview. You don't talk to the same person ever twice.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of outreach with them, or we have in the past done outreach with them so that their schedule takers know what Timber Trails guidelines are and what we need.
Yeah, we had to, because they thought we were a taxi service.
Yes.
Like, no, so we've had to educate that health system quite a bit.
There were some incentives for more incentives for the small van purchases, and so if we could somehow jumpstart small business, minded people to start a small business, that would be great. I mean.
We had somebody not too long ago try a cab company and couldn't get it to go.
No. Yeah,
Talk to DHS about how difficult it is to become
that was his issue, yeah, he
Yeah.
couldn't get through the
Provider.
paperwork.
for them to provide an EMT.
Are there any, VA specific, transportation?
We have, well, through the Veteran Service Officer, the DAV vehicle that doesn't seem to run very much. I don't know why, but they have a couple of drivers that they run simply to St. Cloud or Minneapolis and.
It's not ADA accessible either though.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what would be so great, would be that and that's what we need in the rural community. These different resources to be able to cross over and get out of the silos, so potentially someone, let's say you have a community dispatch and they say, all right, we have this DAV vehicle that's not being used today. And we have this driver who's available, pair them up, match them and go. But yeah, all these different rules for the specific programs don't allow that. Plus all the different rules to how they get paid for those programs.
So another piece of that is the 5310 funding. So you've got 50, and Tina, you speak up here, and if I don't get this right, you got 5107s, 5307s that are your Duluth and St. Cloud and all of that. You got 5311s, which are our rural transit systems, and you got 5310s, which does not offer operating money, but offers vehicles. So like a local nursing home can apply for and get money for a 5310 vehicle, but then they don't have any money to run it. And right now, what you have is they don't even have the staff to be able to drive. I mean, they don't get big vehicles where they have to have CDL drivers. Maybe they do, I don't know.
Yeah, there are a lot of them are like the class 300, which they don't need to have the CDL. They are now moving for vans. Most of the applicants we received were for vans this past year. We do have several 5311 systems that do have a 5310 program. So that is completely separate, because 5311 funds and 5310 cannot mix. And so whatever they get for fares and stuff with that, reimbursement or contracts, that all goes into operating, to operate the 5310 program. But the buses, they apply for and get through that.
And just for clarification, as you know, coming from the federal staff, like 5310 funding from the federal level is actually very flexible. But there's a very distinct purposes or allowable purposes put in place by the state of Minnesota for how you can utilize that 5310 funding. And it's 99% vehicles for senior disabled.
It goes to the silo, the silo thing that we have over and over and over again.
And they try and protect that funding and to ensure that it doesn't roll over into 5311 funding. Because as you know, if you don't utilize 5310, you can roll it over 5311, but then that's going to put the 5310 funding amount into question over the course of time. So they always try and make sure they keep the 5310 funding separate from the 5311 funding.
We actually do have to get FT approval for anything, like, we had a public transit system at 5311 who did purchase a used 5310 bus, and we had to get FT approval first to be able to transfer that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are some examples of rural transit systems that sort of have a branch that?
UCAP down in southwestern Minnesota, out of Marshall, they've been operating for quite a long time like that. So they have a separate 5310 program, it has its own coordinator, and those buses, then they apply for through our office, and that's what they do, like they said, the shelter programs, the DTNHs and the DACs with the activity centers and all that all goes through the 5310 program.
But
So all those contracts and everything, that all goes into the operating costs for that
The
program.
UCAP does not have a 5311 program. They don't have public transit.
UCAP?
UCAP, they don't have 5311.
Yeah, that's, Nick,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Nick down on the.
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
UDAC, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
How could you
Yeah.
possibly mix those?
Canadian County, when I first started in public health, 1819, was had a 5310. And we were able to get some older Americans money to help do that. Public health actually did the volunteer driver program at that time too, until Sugar Trails came in, so. But we're having the same discussions on the public health world. I've got 23 different grants I manage.
Wow.
Just give us this much money and let us do it for local, without all these separate. And the same goes for transit. It's like, just let us figure out how to get people where they need to go. And not have to worry about crossing this line or that line or, yeah.
Yeah.
Let us work with our partners. Yeah.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left. I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's time and get us out at as close to 2:30 as possible. But is there any other, maybe from someone on Zoom, any other point that they really want for us to share with our DC transit team and Senator Smith?
Come on out and ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on out and ride.
I saw, when I was driving, I saw one of the buses. Like seeing a celebrity almost.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
Timber tracks.
Yeah. So.
Well, I also saw that, the Timber Trails, I can't remember if it was you individually, Helen, or Timber Trails, the organization received an award, right, at the end of 2022.
2023 transit system of the
23.
year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think Helen might have been the year before for director of the year.
I almost forgot to congratulate you, but I just wanted to say congratulations on that.
That goes to the staff.
Yeah.
That's the people that we have doing this job.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's them.
That's awesome.
I would like to talk a little bit about low emission, no emission stuff.
Yeah.
How that, and you probably have a whole lot more to say about it than what I do.
Right.
But while I love the environmentally friendly attitude and yearning for, I'm not sure electric buses or even LP buses. LP, I'm more warmer for LP now than I used to be, but, this is rural Minnesota. We get snow on the road this deep, a lot.
Right.
It's 30 below some mornings.
Okay, not anymore. I haven't even been able to get my snowmobile. Really sad. So,
Right, right.
But
So
yeah.
I really love the idea, but, let's be realistic about what's possible to be done in that area.
Have you, is propane something that you explore, is that similar?
Well, I think,
Timber trails.
I think if we had to choose an option, that would be the one electric's not gonna work. We were too far out for too long. I mean, if you only get 3 hours out of the charger or whatever it is, that's just not feasible. I have a hard time seeing that it is,
Right.
but,
And LP requires a bunch of,
we have to do a big
infrastructure
facility
that,
upgrade.
yeah, I mean, we'd have to have the right things in place. You have a fear, the same fear that I have. Now, my operations supervisor talked to somebody at fall conference and he came back and enlightened me a lot, but I think there's a lot of us that think about an LP bus exploding on us, okay? It's hard for us to imagine that. Now, LP's been around for a long time, and that's real naive on our part, and he came home with some good information, and with the idea that maybe Timber Trails could look at something like that, but there's infrastructure that's gonna have to come with it. It's not like that, we're just gonna order an LP bus. And I know you've got lots to say on that.
Which I'll say for Larry.
Yeah.
Okay,
So as far as propane, February 5th, Ken is giving a tour at Whitehurst because
Okay.
they've had propane buses for a number of years. And Wazine is going to be giving a couple propane.
Are they?
buses.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll let Chris. know.
Actually, a lot of the systems, they're not applying with our local program, they're not applying for EV buses, they're applying for propane. So, yeah, EV up in another. That's, I don't think you're happy with.
No, I know I don't have to.
Actually,
Yeah.
we actually can't get that will work in this one for.
At least that's what they're saying.
Yeah, for 20 below.
Yeah, drive today.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the bottom baseline issue is an electric bus costs twice as much as a regular bus.
Yeah.
So from an efficiency standpoint, why would you want to pay twice as much to get 2 buses to do the exact same work that 1 bus can do all by itself?
I mean, at that point, it's like 4 times as much, because gotta double up just to cover the same ground.
So we talked a lot about useful bus or useful life, and I just wanted to let you know that, we don't try to trade out our buses at 65,000. That's not what we're talking about. Useful life is 100,000 or is 150,000.
Depending on the model.
Yeah. And
Right.
then it goes by years or miles.
Right, so it's not like we're whining about nothing here. When you're hearing systems say we've got buses with 250,000 miles, that's more than 100,000 over their useful life. And you heard it, but that's repairs.
Yeah. Just more money.
Yeah.
Repairs that you could be putting into a new bus.
And we saw 2017 model buses on the road.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good. Good information. And then I'm sure, since being so rural, you probably hit the mileage, useful life limit well before the yearly, or like the suggested year.
All of our systems do a great job of taking care of our buses. That is one of our highest priority for safety, for economy, for everything. But our buses get used hard. We're starting and stopping constantly. 30 miles an hour, then we get out on the road and we're up to 70. Public transit is not easy on vehicles.
Yeah. That's a huge issue.
And we want to talk about paved roads.
So how much worse is being on an unpaved road versus a paved road?
I don't know, can you quantify that? I mean, the vibrations, the
Potholes,
potholes,
maintenance, the upkeep.
yeah. Dirt just getting in the brake pads, I mean.
Not like any buses not being liked.
Yeah, I don't, it's difficult, I think, to quantify, like it's a percent or something, but it's.
It is a factor.
Suspension, yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're at time. Good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
We do truly appreciate you taking the time to come out here, so that we can better understand rural transit needs. The best legislation comes from hearing voices on the ground, so we really appreciate you sharing this with us. And we'll pass it along to our transportation team in DC. Feel